It's as if you never left. Part 2, signaling. Okay, so 3 columns of smoke is a recognized signal of distress. So you make smoke, if it's a conifer green forest, you want white colored smoke, which is typically green vegetation makes white smoke. So that stands out against it. If you are in deserty type conditions or whatever, you want black smoke, so oil on the fire or oil soaked rags or a tire of your vehicle, that makes black smoke. So those are things to think about. Other means of signaling, one you see in a lot of kits is a mirror. Mirrors work. You need to practice with them. There are purpose-made signal mirrors. There are also kits that come in a metal box, so when you open it up, the inside's shiny, so at least you can reflect, I'm over here, when the helicopter's flying. And yeah, I just decided I can't be telling you how to use all these items on this, or it would be too long. I could give an easy hour class on every one of these categories. So signal, you could have flares, you could have a smoke grenade, you could have a big orange piece of cloth or an American flag or, whatever. But the ability to make a signal to, hey, I'm over here. I am opposed to putting like first aid books and survival instructions in survival kits. I think it's I think it's dumb. You're not really going to have a whole lot of time to deal with that. I guess in a survival situation, depending on what it was, you're lounging around the beach trying to figure out how to open up a coconut. I guess you would have time to read directions. But one set of directions that could be on a card like this in your kit is the air-to-ground signals. That there's various air-to-ground signals that one can use that signals, I need help, I went this way, we need food, we need a doctor, that kind of thing. A radio, depending on your survival kit, the pilots have the military pilots have a pilot survival vest, and in that is a survival radio, right? That's part of their kit. What else about signal can you put in your kit? Yellow ribbon, something as simple as a stub of pencil or a little Sharpie, and maybe, you have some paper in your container with those notes on it or whatever. You can write, I am proceeding north, aiming for the Nisqually River. I have 2 people with me. We are all in good condition. And you leave that note where you were so that if rescuers come and they find your original spot, they're like, okay, they went this way, right? That's a signal of sort, right? It's communication. Aluminum foil. I'm trying to talk about things I've already used. Aluminum foil, you could use that to signal, right? You could use that to make a pot to boil water, that kind of thing. So there it has, see how it has double purposes? It's like, this is useful. I can use this. You can keep the rays out of your head, man. All right, next thing, first aid. It's another category. We have fire, food, water, signal, first aid. Almost all survival incidents involve injury. It's part of how you got there. It's how you got yourself into this sorry state that you find yourself. First aid could include anything from just a Band-Aid. Everybody should have Band-Aids or two, a Band-Aid or two in their wallet. It's easy, it's flat, and you can use it not just to, I just cut myself the other day on which one of these fingers. You know that tool I showed you guys, that Japanese shovel? That thing is sharp. Oh man, it cut me when I was using it. Oh, right here. And it would have been nice to bandage that, but my fingers were filthy when I did it, and that's not good. Excuse me, that's not good. But you can also use a Band-Aid to tie something, to hold something together, wrap it around like tape, something like that. Couple gauze pads, maybe depending on the size of your kit, a tube of Neosporin, chapstick. Chapstick is good for chapstick, that's medical, right? You can also use it to start fires. What else? I'm just trying to think of things kind of first aid-y in a survival kit. A bandana. Picture an orange bandana. I can use it for signaling. I can use it as a pre-filter for the water. I can use it as a bandage. I can use it as a sling. Food. How can I use it for food? I can carry the blackberries that I gathered in it, like a little basket. So I've got a orange bandana, fire fire. I could turn a bit of it into char cloth or fray out the corners and use that for my tinder, food, I told you, water, I told you, signal. So there you go, first aid, use it for a first aid thing. So first aid is a item. Okay, next one, shelter. Shelter. How am I gonna fit shelter in a skull can, PJ? Here's the reality on shelter. Shelter is a difficult one. Like you're not carrying a tent unless it's a huge, like Foot Locker size first aid kit. You're not carrying a tent or a tarp even, but your Bob has a tarp, right? But what do you do for a little kit? Depending on the size of your kit, my kids' kits that I talked about earlier in the first video, they all had a space blanket in them. And my kids knew how to use a space blanket because we practiced with it, even when they were little. So they knew how to wrap it up and do this. They knew how to use it like a flag to signal. They knew how to use it in a reflector for the fire because they practiced. But a space blanket works. Even those cheap space blankets is better than nothing. It keeps you dry. It keeps you warmer than you were. Those kinds of things. But another consideration for shelter and an item that should be in almost every kit is cordage. And now you're going back to the bushcrafting, 10 or 12 or 100 Cs, whatever. But cordage is one of those items that is, I can make cordage. I teach people how to make cordage. It takes a long time and it's inferior to 550 cord. Right? 550 cord is really too big to stick into a skull can survival kit that I always have on me, let's say. But cordage is a really important thing. Going down our list, fire. You could use cordage it's one of the hard things when you're making a bow drill fire, is the cordage. So if you have cordage, you can use it on your bow drill fire. There was a reason my special forces team, everybody had really long boot laces in their boots, and then we wrapped all the extra wraps of their 550 cord around the top of our boot and tied it so we had extra cordage if we ever needed it. 550 cord has all those inner strands, which you can use those for fishing line, and you can take the inner strands apart and use them for like very fine thread. Another good source of cordage for shelter, right? I want to put this cross piece up and there's no notch to stick it in. I really need to tie it right here. Okay, put a little cordage on there. Boom, now it's up. Now I can put my space blanket down. I can lay down flat and get out of the rain. A decent cordage thing for kits is dental floss. You can just break open the pack of dental floss and take out the little spool and throw that in your kit. If your kit's super micro, take as much dental floss as you want and then make a little hank of dental floss and put that in your kit. It's cordage. You can use it for, well, you wouldn't be able to use a dental floss for a bow drill fire, but you could catch food with it. You could maybe tie it to your little container that you throw down there to get the water. I'm stretching here. I'm trying to make it fit in every category. You could tie your signaling device, your bandana, which you could tie by itself, or the space blanket to a stick that you wave back and forth, whatever. It's very useful, cordage. But we're talking shelter. Another thing you need for shelter, and it should be in every survival kit, it's like almost a category all to its own, is a blade, an edge, a sharp edge. Because you can use a blade when you're making your shelter, right? You can use a blade for first aid. You can use a blade for everything. Every category you can use a blade. If you're making a micro kit, a straight edge razor blade will work. If you can get a little pocket knife in there, those little Swiss Army knives, great. If you can get a real knife in there, awesome. If depending on the size of your kit, you get this knife in there, great. But a knife is something that covers all the different things, shelter. And then the final category, so we have fire, we have food, we have water, we have signaling, we have first aid, we have shelter. One more thing on shelter. Your primary shelter is what you're wearing. Dress appropriately, right? Dress appropriately, because you may just be hunkered up by a tree. The final category, travel. You may have to get yourself out of here. The most common thing one finds in survival kits under the category of travel is a compass, right? Now, it does you no good to have a compass if you don't know how to use it. It does you no good to have a compass if it's some cheap piece of crap that doesn't really work. And you don't even know it doesn't work because you don't know how to use a compass. So you need to learn the skills to go with all this stuff in your kit. But a compass is like, yeah, I know that I'm generally west of the highway, so I need to, go east until I hit that highway. That could help you from wandering around in circles in the wilderness. Another thing that I consider for travel in bigger kits is gloves and glasses, specs, for moving at night. When you're reaching out and grabbing things, I don't want to hurt myself when I'm traveling, and so I have that. First aid, depending on the kit. Oh, another item that should be in almost every first aid kit, and I'm thinking a first aid injury that would perhaps affect my travel, like I get a twisted ankle. Duct tape. Duct tape rules the universe. You can use duct tape in almost every category. I bet you I could definitely use duct tape in every category. And duct tape, a roll of duct tape is bulky and cumbersome. I've seen kits where they'll take the duct tape and wrap it around a lighter or wrap it around a pencil stub or something like that and put it in the kit. What I like to do with duct tape is whatever thickness you're going to use, whatever width of duct tape you're going to use in your kit, again, it depends on the size of your kit, I flat fold it. So I just pull it out, fold it over, and then fold it over, smooth it out, fold it over, smooth it out. And so I have a flat pack of duct tape. When I was in Special Forces, we always carried, every guy had, it was part of the SOP, duct tape in their pocket, flat duct tape in their pocket. We called it 100-mile-an-hour tape. So those are the categories that you need to cover in your survival kit. I think I'm gonna stop it there. So this was like a short part 2. And then I'm gonna do a part 3 where we go through this and I tell you about this bag and we go through it and just see how we fare. So real quickly to sum up, you need your survival kit. First thing you decide on is what kind of container it's gonna be in. How big of a container are you willing to have for your survival kit so that you ensure you have it with you? Again, I'll give you an example. In my new Kawasaki Mule that we have, there's a space under the driver's seat. It's not waterproof, but it's protected and it's a pretty big space. And it's kind of a pain in the neck to get to. So I'm probably gonna put some recovery items in there, like a toe strap and stuff like that. But I think I'm just gonna build a survival kit, make sure it's watertight, big Ziploc bags, which serve multiple purposes, right? Keeps my kit dry. It's shelter when I put it over my head and it keeps my noggin warm and dry. It's a sucking occlusive dressing for a sucking chest wound. I can hold my berries in it. Do you see how it like fits in all the categories, almost? But I'm thinking of putting a survival kit in there. So container, and then fire, food, water, signal, first aid, shelter, travel, a means to provide it immediately, or perhaps a means to go out and fabricate it, or things like that. I am fascinated in your questions and comments down below, and I'll see you in part 3 right after this.